It's a little weird. I have to start one program before I start the other program, and then I have to switch accounts, and that's what I'm doing. So give me just a second. If you're watching us on Facebook, hello. And if you're in the course at the University of Houston, we're about to get started. Let me get everybody brought into the course. I gotta change my camera. Gonna use the eCam Live Virtual. Close that out. And there we should be good. Okay. Now, I gotta start letting some people in. Yeah, that's not cool. Let me go back here and say show current application. Let's show Ulysses preview sheet and go here. Start letting people in. Okay. Hey everybody, give me just a minute. Got to put my ears on. All right. Okay, can you hear me? Anyone? Hello everyone. I see some folks. I don't see any faces. Just chime in and let me know if you can hear me. Yes, thank you, Sydney. Yes, thank you. Oh, hold on. I guess you're not hearing the music. So let's see if I can fix that. That's weird. Sorry, I've got a little bit of an issue right now. Okay, well, bad news is today, folks, we don't have sound effects. So I know that's not going to ruin anybody's day. Let's get started. Well, it's not quite time to get started. So we've still got folks joining, so let's do that. And I'm going to get myself set up and get ready to get started. So I'm curious. I'm assuming if you're here, you survived the great winter storm, and that was quite an experience. It was for me and my family. I hope your experience was not any worse than mine. It was. I grew up in Michigan, so it was a little odd seeing winter weather here, and it was definitely odd experiencing the results of no power. I had no power from Sunday night all the way through Thursday at about 9:30. We did have water, but no heat, and it was very cold, so hope you all made it. Anybody have any stories you want to tell? I'd love to hear them. It looks like we have a pretty small group today, so this is going live on Facebook and YouTube. So for those of you who are watching afterwards, hello, sorry we missed you in the live session, and I hope that you get your questions answered. If you want to leave a comment or a question, if you're watching live after the event, feel free to do that. I check all of those comments and try to respond to them quickly. But as you know, if you're in the course, probably the best way to get an answer quickly is to go to GroupMe and post a question. So what I want to do today is just kind of tell you how we're going to get caught up. We did take a week. So last week's assignment, week 4, was due last Tuesday, but it's been extended. So I'm hoping that it will be posted and completed by today at 10 a.m. If you have any issues and you're still having trouble getting online, you need to let me know. I know a couple of students have asked for an extension even beyond this whole, so it's been extended for a whole week. But we're trying to be as flexible as we need to be for this week. So here's what's going to happen this coming week. Here's what's going to happen effective today. Week 5, we're going to take week 5 because we missed week 5. So week 5 assignment was not posted. And so here's what we're going to do to kind of make up for the snow week, the cold week, the winter storm week. We're going to combine 2 assignments into one. And this week is a really good week to do that because the 2 assignments that we're going to combine are pretty simple to combine. I mean, they go together really well. So I'm going to walk you through that assignment a little bit today. But before I get started, I want to just encourage you, go ahead and post that you're here if you haven't done that. I see most of you have. But also in the chat box, if you have a question about last week's assignment or this coming assignments or how the points are working, please post that question now and I'll go ahead and answer it. One of the questions I want to answer that has been asked is about last week's assignment, week 4, which I already said it's extended. It was due a week ago today at 10 a.m. So hopefully it's done by 10 a.m. today. Everybody that doesn't have it turned in today by 10 a.m. will get marked 0. So if you turn it in late, you still want to do the assignment, but if you turn it in late after 10 a.m. today, you'll get 0 points. Now, if there's a problem that you're having relative to the storm and services, internet, then let me know and I'll certainly consider that. This week has been highly unusual, but we're going to get back on track starting this week. So starting this week, moving forward, everything is going to be due on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. The only thing that's going to change really is that this week we're going to combine 2 weeks, week 5 and week 6, into one assignment. We'll double the points, and so that's what we're going to do to try to make up for the snow week. So I'll try and make that as easy and clear. The assignment instructions currently in Blackboard are in 2 different assignments. I'm going to combine them into one assignment so that you're going to be basically submitting one assignment with the content from both weeks. So in Money Study Group, you're going to be going through 2 weeks of content, and I believe there's a quiz in each week, so you'll do that. You'll do everything that's in Money Study Group in your online course portal. But then as far as Blackboard and the assignment that's going to be graded, you're going to submit one assignment, and again, those 2 assignments will be combined. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And so I'm going to jump right in. It's now 10:10 a.m. and I want to just start by telling you a story about Billy and Sally. Billy is going to help us kind of frame out this week's lesson, and it's kind of fun for me to tell the story about Billy and Sally. They've been a part of this course from the very beginning, and over the years I've grown to love and appreciate them. That's not their real picture. That's a picture I grabbed to represent Billy and Sally, who are the characters in our story this week, and they will be the characters who help us prepare for this week's assignment. This week's lesson involves Billy and Sally. So I'm going to jump over to Zoom for a minute and see if there's any questions. No questions. I see no questions. I have everybody that wants to be in the Zoom meeting is here. No one's waiting to be admitted, so let's get started. So, when I started teaching this course about a dozen years ago, it was kind of a challenging thing for me because I was older than the students in the course, and I knew that my experience was very different than the audience that I would be addressing, and I wanted to connect. I wanted to have things that would be very valuable, and I knew that I had a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge in financial planning and personal finance. So, but I still wanted to have, I wanted to really connect, and I wanted to understand what was going on in your lives and really kind of reconnect with that, because when I was in college things were very different, and I left home at a very young age. I went to trade school when I barely turned 17. I went from 16 years old. I had already enrolled in technical school in Denver Automotive and Diesel College, and I left high school, left home, and drove 1,200 miles to go to Denver, Colorado to attend trade school. I paid for that myself. I got permission from my parents to go. And I'll never forget the day that I went to my father to ask for his permission. Whenever I would get in trouble, I would get called into his bedroom, and he'd close the door, and he would administer the punishment from the time I was a little kid. My dad was a very strict disciplinarian, military guy, and so there were a few rules, and if you broke those rules, you paid the price. And anyway, I was 16 years old, and I needed to get away. I felt like I had enough discipline, and I was ready to be on my own, and I was determined to do that, to leave home. So I told my dad, hey, I want to talk to you in the room. Let's go down there where we always go. And I remember telling my dad, I grew up in a very religious home, and it was important to have the blessing of your parent. That was something that was taught to me as a young kid, so I was a rebel, and I always wanted to have my cake and eat it too, and that's what happened in this story. I told my dad I wanted his blessing. I wanted his permission and his blessing to leave home, and so that's why I asked for this meeting, Dad, to ask for your blessing. But I told my dad, with or without your blessing, I'm leaving. I'm going to Denver. I've saved the money. I've made arrangements, and I'm going to go to trade school and learn how to be a mechanic. My dad was a mechanic, and I thought it would be cool to learn a trade and have a way to pay for my life. And so I didn't see how he could argue with that. I mean, he'd been drilling that into my head from the time I was a little guy. And, in my family, the deal was, once you graduate from high school, you're on your own. You're not going to get any, and nobody in our family went to college. So college was not part of the plan. And so at that time, when I was 16 years old, I didn't really think of college as even a possibility. But trade school, on the other hand, to learn how to make a living, I'd been going to a vocational training deal anyway. So this vocational training in my high school, Everett High School, where Magic Johnson went to school. That's where I went for vocational training. And so I met this person who was a representative from this trade school, Denver Automotive and Diesel College, and he sold us students on the idea that we could take our training, our interest in fixing cars, to the next level and become professionals. And so he told us how much it cost, and I knew I could afford that. I had the money. I had the money saved already. It was $1,000, and I had a vehicle. I had a motorcycle and a car, and I was just 16 years old at the time. I turned 17 by that summer and hit the road. But when I met Billy, the reason I tell you my story, I think, I'm not really sure, I wasn't planning on telling you my story, but my story and Billy's story were a lot alike, because when I met Billy, he was working, he had gone to San Jac, and he was working at Marathon at a plant doing, doing a job, what we call a blue-collar job, the kind of job I always did before I got into financial services. But I met Billy at a Firestone station, so he was getting his truck fixed, and I was getting my Lexus worked on, and so we just started talking. And Billy had this Ford F-150, and this is kind of a big part of this week's lesson, is his Ford F-150. So Billy was pretty proud of that truck, and I've never owned a Ford F-150. I owned one pickup truck in my life, and it was a Dodge, and I wouldn't recommend, at least that particular vehicle was a challenging vehicle. But anyway, Billy had a Ford F-150. It was a pretty cool truck. He bought it from his uncle. He got a really good deal on it, and he needed tires. So he was at Firestone to buy some tires, and I was there to get some other work done, and we happened to connect and talk, and that's when we became friends. And so following Billy on Facebook and watching his life, mysteriously unfold has been kind of fun for me. But Billy, that was the first semester that I taught this experience with Billy. And so what happened next is we're standing there at Firestone. Billy's there to buy some tires for his F-150 pickup truck. And here comes Sally. Sally is the service representative at the Firestone, and she's there to take our order and find out what we need and how they could help. And so she was there to help Billy. And you kind of, being an observer, I kind of noticed that there was a little bit of a connection there. And Sally was a super good salesperson, and she helped Billy understand that, first of all, she complimented his truck and him. That's a great truck. And so she knew he was there to buy tires. And I would love to ask you, what do you think Sally, the super sales lady, suggested to Billy when he came there? By the way, he came there with a coupon for these tires. He was going to buy tires on sale because he was a pretty level-headed guy. Billy lived at home. He worked at this Marathon plant. He made really good money. He went to San Jac College, 2-year technical degree. That's one of the things we kind of had in common. And now he's out there with this truck, his first vehicle. He bought it from his uncle, got a really good deal, and he's coming to buy tires on sale at Firestone, and he meets Sally, and she's a salesperson. She gets paid to do what? To sell stuff. And being a sales professional almost all of my life, it was kind of interesting to watch Sally and the transition that happened with her and Billy, the transaction, I should say, that happened. Because what Sally knew is that those tires that were on sale, they were fine, they were good, but they were not the coolest tires in town. And so she started to talk to Billy about, what it would be like to take that truck and really transform it into not just a Ford F-150, but a really cool Ford F-150. So here's my first question, and this whole lesson today is about consumerism. And I don't know what you think about the idea of being a consumer, but if you live in America, being a consumer is part of the natural water we swim in. We're all consuming things all the time, and everywhere we go, someone's trying to sell us something. And so in this story, that's what happened. Billy was being sold something. He came in to buy tires on sale, and he met this professional salesperson who was really good at helping him see the possibility of transforming his truck, his Ford F-150 pickup truck, from these, this boring set of tires to something altogether different. So if you were Sally and you were in the sales business and you worked at Firestone and you had Billy as a potential customer, what would you be thinking might be the next step for Billy? Anybody have any suggestions? I'm looking for your input. Type it into the chat. You guys have been way too quiet. I hope you guys. Here we have new person coming. So if you were Sally and you worked at Firestone, what do you think she got paid? How do you think she got paid? Do you guys know how this works? Do you know how sales works? Anybody out there in sales? Now's a good time to post. Sydney, come on. What do you think? How do you think Sally got paid? She works at Firestone and she's a salesperson. Any commission? Yeah, commission. Thank you very much. So yeah, commissions, which means, Lewis, that if you sell something, you get paid a piece of the action. So if you've never been in sales, you wouldn't know this probably unless you know someone who has been in sales. But if you are a professional salesperson, you typically get paid to sell stuff. And if you don't sell anything, you pretty much don't get paid, or you get paid very little. So being in sales, like Sally was, you make your money if you're really good at selling. And when you have a customer who comes in to buy something on sale, that's a great opportunity to try to help them understand and see the value of buying the next level up. And, you know, having been in sales all my life, I can tell you that the truth is sometimes what's on sale is not the best value, because sometimes it's just plain cheap or junk. It's cheap. But anyway, when it comes to tires, you know, anybody know, by the way, what do you think today, if you were going to buy 4 tires for a Ford F-150 pickup truck, does anybody have a clue what you would spend on 4 tires for a Ford F-150 pickup truck? Anybody got an idea? This is where, if we were in class together, this story is much more than a story. It's an interaction, and I get to ask you questions. And yeah, Sydney and Lewis, those are 2 good numbers. So Sydney, you said 1,000. Hi, Nye. I know you just got here. Good to see you. So yeah, new. You say over $1,000 question mark. So that is a good question. I just bought tires for my Lexus, and it was about $800 for my Lexus, which what that means is a Lexus has smaller wheels and smaller tires than a Ford F-150. And honestly, I don't know today what you would pay for tires for an F-150, but I would assume that it would be over $1,000 because it was $800 for my Lexus. So the point is, Billy came in to buy these tires on sale. So let's say that the tires on sale would be $800. Okay, here we go. Your RAV4 was $950. Yes, and your RAV4 probably has tires that are about the same size as my Lexus, because a RAV4 is a pretty small SUV. But the Ford F-150 is bigger, and they do come in different size wheels, and that would make a difference. Which brings me to the next point. Billy went in to buy regular standard tires, and he had a coupon, and they were on sale, and he was going to get a pretty good deal. In fact, at the time, it was going to be around $800 for his tires. But Sally suggested to Billy, "Hey, Billy," she said, "I want to show you something, and I just want you to think about it." And she basically showed Billy another set of tires that were really different than the tires he came to buy. They had white letters. They were big, bold, beautiful tires, if you know what I mean. They were going to change the profile and the look of that truck. And so Sally just wanted Billy to understand that if he drove in there with that nice Ford F-150 pickup truck that looked like something he got from his uncle, you know, that's a great vehicle. But what's possible when you drive out of here is you could drive out of here with the Billy Mobile. I mean, I don't remember how she said it, but whatever she said to Billy got his attention and got him thinking, because what she was really saying to Billy with that twinkle in her eye was that if you make this upgrade, you're going to look like $1 million. So think about that for a minute. If you're Billy, you live at home, you're making good money working at the Marathon plant, and you can afford it. In fact, here's how Sally told him. Well, before I tell you how Sally sold it to him, I want to ask you, what do you think? If you were in the same situation, you were Billy or you were Sally, how do you think you might have been able to justify or sell that upgrade for those more expensive tires? So instead of $800 now, the new tires that Billy was looking at were going to be more like $1,200. So that was then, I don't know what it is now, but just that was about the difference between the tires, $800 to $1,200, to have a whole different look, a whole different profile. So what are you thinking? At this point in the story, what are you thinking? Talk to me a little bit. So what are you hearing? What are you thinking? What are you imagining if you were in the story? What details might help, or what details come to your mind? I don't know if you guys have ever bought tires. I mean, I can't imagine you haven't bought tires, but maybe you've been with your parents when they bought tires, or your uncle or your aunt or your friend. But think about it. Knowing the quality of the tires and how long they would last would matter to you. That's great. That's, when I buy tires, that's like I'm always wanting to know how many miles will I get from these tires for the cost. And honestly, I don't really care about the white letter or the cool part. I just want to know they ride well and they're going to give me good service and that they're priced right. So that's what I would be asking. Anyone else? What about so think about this for just a second. Sally is suggesting these super cool tires, but what does so additional warranty, we'll talk about that in just a second. That's a good point. The warranty did become a big part of this whole deal, but the tires, does anybody know when you think about a tire, if you buy a new tire, what might you also need to buy if you change the tire, if you really change the look of your vehicle? What else might you think about to change the look, the profile of that old Uncle George's truck to Billy's Billy-mobile truck? What would you think might help? Anything else? Any other components? Any other pieces to the puzzle that maybe if you're Sally, you're definitely thinking about? Come on, you guys. Lift kit? Hey, that's great. It could be a lift kit might make a difference. It didn't turn out to be on Sally's radar, but something else did. But yeah, lift kit could do it. Lift kit with lights and maybe some hydraulics. But no, that wasn't part of it. But there was something else. New clamps. I'm not sure what you mean by clamps. But how about rims? You guys know what rims are? They're the wheels. They're the part that bolts to the vehicle, and the tire goes on the wheel. And the wheel comes in all kinds of different variations. But if your Uncle George's pickup truck came from the factory, it could be a very boring wheel. But what Sally had in mind with those awesome tires was also a set of awesome wheels. And so what do you think happened? At the end of the day, do you think Sally was able to convince Billy that maybe instead of coming and leaving with a pair of new tires that just makes Uncle George's truck look like it's got new tires versus transformation to the Billy-mobile, what do you think? How do you think it went next? What would it take for Sally to convince Billy to justify this purchase from now? Wow, it was going to be $800. How much do you think it's going to be now with new tires, big tires, new wheels? And they also found out that Billy's truck needed a couple of repairs because Sally convinced him, rightly so, that he should purchase an alignment. I don't know if you guys know about an alignment, but there are certain things you have to do if you have a vehicle. You have to maintain it, and you may not know until you take your car to the shop that you got a broken ball joint and a loose tie rod end. And so just trust me, if you put new tires on your vehicle and you have loose parts under your front end, it's your chassis, it's called your chassis, your front end. There's lots of parts. There's ball joints and tie rod ends and bushings, and there are several things on a vehicle that can wear out, and when they wear out, they let the wheels kind of flop around, like too much movement. And what happens to your vehicle's alignment, that's how the tires are in alignment. So are they aligned? They should go down the road. In fact, while they're going down the road, they should set the alignment so that typically the wheels are just in a little bit. That's called toe, when your wheels are towed in, because when you go down the road, that makes the natural tendency is for them to straighten out, and that will tighten up your front end parts typically. Depending on how it's designed, you may want to tow it out because it's a long story. It's technical. But remember, I'm a master mechanic because that's what I did. And so I understood, yeah, Billy, you need to get in alignment because you don't want to wear out your tires. You want all those angles to be correct. By the way, caster, if you look at a shopping cart when you go in a grocery store and you see the wheel and it's like this, that's called caster. And caster is one of the angles. You've got caster, camber, and toe. So now you know there are 3 basic angles in an alignment. And Billy needed all 3 of them to be adjusted because he had loose parts. And you can't really adjust it until you fix the parts. So now he's got another estimate to repair the truck so that he can do the alignment, so that he can put the new tires on it, so he can drive out with a warranty. And the warranty was all based on having the vehicle be correctly assembled with the right parts and the repairs that were needed so that the alignment would hold, so that you could align it and it would stay aligned and it wouldn't be shifting around, the wheels wouldn't be moving around because they had loose parts. So all of that came to more than $800. How much do you think all of that might cost? You got now tires, new tires, nice tires. You got wheels, you got the repair on the vehicle, and then you've got the alignment, you've got the warranty, you got the balancing of the tires. They had to put new stems so that it didn't leak. All of that was going to be one big bottom line price tag of how much? How much do you think Sally was going to sell all of this to Billy for in his truck? Instead of $800, which is what he came in kind of budgeted to pay, $800, how much do you think it was going to be? There's a number, and you don't have to be just absolutely correct, but you have to answer it. You have to give me a number. Closer to $2,000. Nicholas says $2,500. Those are good numbers. This is today. That was then. Today, maybe, let's say a little more. Anybody else want to say a little more? Because it would be a little more than that to do the tires, the wheels. You had no idea, Sydney, me neither, no idea. But let's go with $3,000. And yeah, Nicholas, just for fun. That hurts my soul. How does it hurt your soul? I don't understand how it hurts your soul because it's so much money. It's so much money. That's what I thought you were thinking. Yeah, it is a lot of money. But you know, it's amazing how much money it costs to do stuff. And so, but what it did, it really did transform the look of that truck. But before Sally could sell it to Billy, she had a couple of other details she had to figure out. And this is where I want your help, your input. I want you to help walk me through what you think it might be like if you're Billy and you're standing there expecting to pay $800 and now the bill is $3,000. How are you going to pay that bill? What is it that Sally can offer Billy to make that choice, to make that commitment, to drive out of there with the Billy Mobile? Which, by the way, in case you haven't figured this out, Billy and Sally, they were, you know, they liked each other by the time this was all over, and Billy took Sally on a date, and I'll tell you the rest of the story. But just now, my question is, how do you think Billy was able to make the decision, to make the commitment rather? How could he do it? What did Sally offer? Monthly installments. Yeah. So let's talk about monthly installments. What's another word, another name, another title for monthly installments? Because this is really the core reason for this week's lesson. Today is consumerism, The lesson, I think, is Consumerism and Credit Crush. So we're putting two lessons together, but that's the titles. Is I want to introduce you, help you understand how consumerism works, which is always at operation, especially when you're interacting with a professional salesperson or any other kind of marketing. And the purpose is to get your money in their pocket. And one of the ways they do that, one of the vehicles, monthly installments, is a natural, necessary part of the upsell, because typically you walk into a store or a place where you're going to buy something and you don't have the money to buy it. And therefore you need, what's the word? Financing. Yes, what's another word for financing, Beatrice? Payment plan, yes. Sydney, what's another name for a payment plan? Anyone? This is something we've been studying and something we're going to study a little more, but you did what kind of report did you do? Debt, yes, we're getting so close. Debt is definitely, so we got debt, payment plan, financing, monthly installments, and I'm still looking for one word that starts with a C and ends with a T and has D-E-T, credit. Thank you. Was that Alina? Thank you, Alina. Credit. So credit. So we've got all these words. That's great. We've got financing, monthly installments, payment plan, and debt. So that's right. Now, here's what I want you guys to think about as we get ready to jump into this week's assignment. Sally had to do some things in the back room. She basically went and talked to her finance department. They put together an offer, and that offer was an offer of credit. It was a financing package, and this is what every store you'll ever go into, if you go to buy a car, if you go to get service on your vehicle and you need, they want to sell you something, they want you to use their credit card because they make a lot of money on credit. And in this case, Sally wanted Billy to be able to walk out or drive out with the Billy Mobile instead of Uncle George's old pickup. And so to do that, she offered financing. Now, help me unpack. There are a couple components to the financing, to the credit, that I want to make sure you're aware of, because as a consumer, it's going to be very helpful for you to be aware of how this works. And so that's one of the things I want to teach you this week is how it works. Credit, how it works. Financing, how it works. Credit card debt, how it works. So to start with how it works, let's look at what's the promise. What is it you get when you use credit? In this case, Billy's going to buy these tires. He's going to get what? He's going to get to drive out of there with all this product from Firestone. New tires, new rims, service, including the alignment, the repairs, the ball joint, the tie rod end, the warranty, the balanced wheels and tires, all of that. He's driving out of there basically with a new vehicle, a transformed Billy Mobile. That's what he gets. But what is it that is part of the financing or the credit package that allows him to get that? What is it that Sally is going to sell him, just like she would sell you, just like the next salesperson would sell you when they're trying to get you to use their product? Their product is credit to purchase more of their product. So what is it that's part of that package? If you've never, been responsible for paying a credit card bill, you may not understand how all this works, but it's a really pretty simple, few pieces that I want to make sure you understand. So, great. Now, you said no interest in the beginning, and that's a good way to look at it. No interest in the beginning. So, tell me more about that, Nye. What does that mean? No interest in the beginning. What's the beginning? Is that like a day, a week, a month, 6 months, a year, 3 years? They offer 0% for the first year or so. That's good. Yep. In this case, they offered 0% for 6 months, and we call that same as cash, I think. No, so And the interest jumps by a lot afterwards. Yeah, so sounds like you have a little experience with this. So before we talk about what does that interest jump to at the end, let's just talk about the 6-month part. So Billy, in his mind, he's thinking, hey, I'm working at Marathon, I'm making good money, I'm living at home, I'm not even paying rent, so I'm going to have all this income, and I can save the money. And that's what Sally said too. She's like, dude, you can save the money. For 6 months, you can just put the money away from your paycheck, save it up, and then you'll have the $3,000 at the end of 6 months. You pay it off, and you pay no interest. So that's the package. That's the deal. That's the offer. And so what else do you think there is besides no interest in the beginning, low interest, or zero interest for 6 months? What else? What else might there be as a benefit or kind of an incentive for Billy to say yes to this $3,000 purchase? What else might there be besides no interest for 6 months? That's exactly right, Alina. No down payment. That's different than no interest. No down payment means Billy didn't even have to use that $800 that he came there with, expecting to pay for those tires. He came to pay cash, but he basically didn't even have to put anything down. And that's right, Alina. That's one of the things that they use, because think about it. If they get paid on that credit, that financing, that's their product. That's how they make money, is they get paid on interest on, and so they don't really want you. They being the credit card company, they being the finance department, they being whoever it is that's trying to get you to use credit to purchase things, they want you to use credit. They don't want you to pay it off. And so I want to show you exactly how much that costs to not pay it off. So that's, yes, absolutely, Alina, no down payment. So that's number 2. We've got no interest, no down payment. What else do you think they might offer Billy to get him to say yes to making this purchase? Nicholas, you say a rebate. That would be true, yep. And I don't think there was a rebate in this case, but that's certainly something that is part of a lot of deals, is a rebate, where you pay for it and then you get your receipt and you send the receipt off to the manufacturer, and then 16 years later they send you a check or a credit card or a gift card or a discount or something. So I was kidding. It's not usually 16 years later, but it can be several months later. Rebates are typically pretty slow, but that's not what was in part of this deal. So there was no interest, there was no down payment, no interest for 6 months, no down payment. And what else? There's one other thing that Sally used to help Billy make this decision. And as I watched this conversation taking place, it made so much sense. I would be like, yeah, it makes it pretty easy. 3 things made it really easy. One was no interest for 6 months. Number 2 was no down payment, nothing out of your pocket. And number three, what do you think number 3 was? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Please leave a comment. A discount? Discount, that's kind of general. Discount, it could have been a discount, but it wasn't. It's something like a discount, though. Low monthly payments. That's not too broad. That's exactly right, Sydney. Low monthly payments. So the way they set it up is, again, remember, this is kind of critical for you to understand if you want to become a smart consumer, because I look at it like this. Consumerism, basically, the culture that we live in, you're a target. Like, everybody wants to get your money in their pocket. And so financing and credit cards and debt, it's like the number one attractive tool to destroy your financial future, because they make money by getting you to be in debt. And so the longer you're in debt, the more money they're going to make on you. And so that's how it works. So no interest for 6 months sounds great. No down payment sounds great. Low monthly payments sounded great to Billy too, because, well, what's not to like about that deal? He gets to drive out of there with the Billy Mobile, transformed from Uncle George's pickup truck to this whole new look. And it did look good. I mean, it was cool. But basically, he's now driving around with $3,000 debt. For 6 months, he doesn't have to pay anything. It feels really good. And then after 6 months, if he decides to pay it off, he's going to have low payments. And so what you're going to find out this week through the homework assignment that you do is that if he does that, if he takes that deal, and let's say that, well, what actually happened with Billy is he and Sally became very good friends. They started to date. Eventually, Billy got himself an apartment, and of course, Sally moved in with him, and eventually they got married. But for the first year or so, the 6 months went by, and they had other bills, other expenses. And do you think Billy paid off the tires within 6 months? Do you think he paid off that $3,000 within 6 months? Do you think you would be disciplined enough to save the money and pay that $3,000 off? Do you think most people will take that deal, save the money, pay it off in 6 months so that they actually pay no interest? Unfortunately, no. The answer is no. Billy didn't. He started going out on dates, started buying new furniture, things started to happen. And so, long story short is Billy basically didn't pay it off, and then he ended up paying for it. And I talked to Billy later on and found out that, his story was like not everyone, but so many stories I've heard. He started making the low monthly payments. Now, what do you think, just based on all of this whole story, what do you think on a $3,000 bill to Firestone for tires and wheels and all the other work, what do you think the interest rate would be on that particular piece of credit? What do you think the interest rate would be on that credit card? Because at the end of the day, that's what it was. It was a Firestone credit card. But what do you think the interest rate would be on that credit card? Think about that for a second. What do you think the average credit card interest rate is? 24, 25. So, Beatrice, do you know anyone that's ever paid 25% on a credit card? Or 24%, Nye? That's what you said, 24%? Does that seem like ridiculously high, or like pretty much? So I'm going to tell you that what happened was the interest rate was 18%. 18% was the interest rate, which was, in Billy's mind, and Sally thought that was pretty good. Compared to 25%, that's pretty good, right? It is. I mean, 18 is better than 25. And 25 is totally, I've seen it, I've paid it, I've had 25% on my credit card before. Not in a couple decades, but when I was young, I got in trouble with credit, and I'm telling you, it gets crazy. In fact, I think I told you this story. When I bought my first house, the interest rate on the mortgage was 11.5%. Talk about crazy. So I don't expect you to really understand how this all plays out over your lifetime. I just want you to understand little pieces of it right now. What you're going to do this week in your homework assignment is in your financial plan, you're going to add some things in your financial plan so that you can see the impact of this purchase on Billy's life, but you're going to do it in your own life. So I'll tell you about that in a minute. But right now, let me just tell you that it started out at 18%, but then Billy missed a payment. And what do you think happens when you miss a payment? You pay a higher rate. It's all part of the fine print in the contract. So in Billy's case, he didn't pay it off in 6 months. He ended up missing a payment. You know, he made the payment up, but the interest rate went up. And so you're going to see when you do this week's assignment, you're going to see how that impacts and how that amount just goes crazy. And if we were in class, what I would do right now is I'd go to the blackboard or the whiteboard, and I would show you the payment, and I would show you the interest, and together we would calculate the interest. And I think I've got a video where I've done that. But if you understand how credit card payments work, and you start to see what a trap it is, my hope is always that you'll get really angry and you'll decide you don't want to fall for that. And so this week, in this week's assignment, you're going to see that in a different way using financial planning software. You're going to go out and do some research, and you're going to, here, let me tell you what you're going to do. That's another thing. Fees, late fees come when you miss a payment. So not only does the interest rate go up, but you pay a fee, and that gets added onto your balance. And what happens is, instead of your balance going down because of the low monthly charge, they intentionally keep it so that you never pay that debt off, typically. I mean, if you've got a 25% interest on a credit card with a and you pay the minimum payment, if you just look at how much you're paying and you watch that balance, you'll see that the interest minus the payment gets added to the balance, and the balance doesn't go down, it goes up. And so over time, over time, if you have credit card balances that are going up instead of down, credit card companies love you. They don't love you when you start paying off credit. And so when you start to think about your credit score and your credit report, and you start to think about those elements and how your credit score is calculated, you start to see why Dave Ramsey calls it the I love credit score. Because what it really is, it's designed for the credit card industry to make sure they can identify good customers. And you don't get extra points for paying off credit cards, do you? You actually get kind of a ding on your credit score if you start paying off credit cards. So just think about it like that this whole deal, this consumerism culture we live in, it's all designed to sell you stuff that you may not even need, and to put it on debt and to use credit, because that's how they make money. Okay, so this week's assignment, let me show you what we're going to do in this week's assignment. So first thing I want you to do is know that you're going to do some research, and to get, and this is not up to date, so instead of 50 points this week, your assignment's going to be worth 100 points. So I'll correct this when I post it in Blackboard. Because you're going to basically be doing 2 weeks worth of assignments. So here's what I want you to basically, and this will be in your assignment, so you don't have to take notes right now. I just want to go over it and give you a good understanding of what I'm going to be looking for in this week's assignment. I want you to pretend that you're graduating, and I want you to do a little research, not pretend. I want you to actually do some research and figure out what do you expect your income to be based on your major and your industry. So I went to college for education. I studied education, not because I was going to be a teacher, but because there was no math. I didn't really want to do a lot of math, and I wanted to pass, and I was paying for college myself. And anyway, I studied education. Well, if I was in your shoes today, and I was doing this assignment, I would need to look around and say, okay, if I'm going to be a teacher when I graduate, where am I going to teach? Am I going to teach in a private school, a public school? Am I going to try to teach at the college level, which means I'm probably going to need some more college But let's just say that I'm going to be a junior high school teacher and I'm going to teach at Friendswood Independent School District. That's pretty easy. I go and I find out how much does that job pay, and that's my research. I want to work in junior high, and I think I'll work at Friendswood Independent School District. Maybe it'll end up being Webster or Pearland or, LaPorte or Houston or whatever, but the range is going to be relatively small, and it's going to give me a good number for how much I'm going to make after I graduate. That's step one. You need to know that. Next, I want you to figure out what is a basic percentage generally, and it doesn't have to be exact, but I want you to think about what are you going to pay for housing, because I want you to pretend that you're going to buy a house. Now, you may rent, and that's fine, but in this assignment, you're going to buy a house. You're going to do a little research, you're going to shop around, you're going to find out how much does a house cost in the area that you want to live. So I just said I'm going to be a junior high teacher in Friendswood ISD, so I'm going to buy a house in Friendswood, and I'm going to try to buy it in Friendswood ISD School District, just because. And so you get to decide. But if you tell me you're going to be, you're going to work at Shell and you're going to live in Colorado, basically make sure that that makes sense. That your home, where you're going to live in relation to where you're going to work, not only location-wise, but you got to figure out if you can afford that house. So I want you to do a little research and start to think like, okay, I'm graduated, I'm working, now I'm going to start looking for a house. And you're going to have to find a house that you can afford, and then you're going to basically do a little more research to figure out what's the interest rate going to be on the mortgage, what's the house payment going to be. And trust me, Mr. Google is a tremendous resource in this assignment. It's not difficult to figure all this out. So you may be thinking, wow, this is overwhelming. This is a lot, but this is just an assignment. You don't have to buy a house, really. You just have to pretend you're buying a house. So it should be fun, and you're welcome to work together with one another and collaborate. Just make sure you buy your house and they buy their house. Don't end up buying the same house, because that would be not good. That would be cheating, I think. But anyway, I just want you to understand what it's going to take, what you're going to make, how much you're going to make, and what are you going to spend on housing. I also want you to figure out, like, I know you all did your expenses, your pre-retirement expenses in your financial plan, and that's great, but I want you to spend a little more time and just go back to that and just try to make sure that you've got a pretty good basic idea of each of those categories and what you're going to spend, because if you don't realize this, like if you buy a 2,500 square foot house, which is my house is about 2,500 square foot, there's cost associated with that. If I rented a 1,000 square foot apartment, my cost for electricity and heating, boy, last week I spent a lot of money on firewood last week. Thankfully I have a fireplace, but utilities is a big deal. You need to understand a little bit about what does that cost. So if you don't know, you can find out. You can talk to your parents, talk to somebody who's paying utilities, do a Google search. I don't really care, but I want you to know these basic categories of a budget. I want you to put yourself into your future and try to figure out what's it going to cost me to live. You've got the income, you got to have the expenses, including the house, and so that's a big part of this week's assignment. And then, so once you've got your income, I want you to go out and spend some money. This is all pretend, but I want you to buy the house. I want you to buy the house that you want. You're going to put it in your financial plan. That's how I know you actually bought the house. And you'll see how to do that. I'll show you how to do that. But the next thing is, after you buy the house, first you have to go figure out what house you're going to buy. What's it going to cost? How much is the payment? What is the interest rate? What's the down payment? And just go figure all that out and pretend that you have the money and you're going to do it. And you're going to put that into your financial plan. So that's the mortgage. You're going to do the mortgage data card. I'll show you how to do that in your financial plan, but it's really pretty simple. So you buy your house, you get your mortgage set up. That's kind of going to be a big step. Tell me why you bought that house. Tell me a little bit about your mortgage payment. Why do you think you can get 0% interest on a home mortgage? Or why is it 1.5% or 2% or 3%, whatever? And then tell me how many years your mortgage is. And this will all be built into your financial planning data card, so it's really easy to enter. This is a really ugly picture of a Porsche that I just found somewhere. But pick the car. I would say, go buy your dream car. It's all, again, this is just, you're making things up. You're pretending you have a job. You're pretending you're buying a house. You're pretending you're buying a car. But I want you to pick the car. I want you to pick the price. I want you to do a little research. Okay, that's this week's assignment, is to do the research and then enter it into your financial plan so you can see what that's going to cost over your lifetime. And then your credit card, I want you to go have a spending spree and just spend some money on a credit card so that I can then show you how much it costs to have a credit card. And I want to show you some strategies for paying off debt. And even though this is going to be imaginary debt for most of you, some of you it won't be. Some of you it will be an actual, you can use your real information. If you have a mortgage, if you have a car payment, if you have a credit card, then you want to use your real information. But I know that a lot of you are not really paying your own bills right now. Someone else is paying them for you. And so you're going to do this assignment as if you're doing it yourself. So I hope that makes sense. You're going to take some screenshots. These are the data cards that you have in your financial planning portal. I'll show you here in just a minute. Well, actually, I'll do a weekly review for this assignment. So I want you to go in and do your best to first you're going to have to wait until I post it in Blackboard. I'll post it in Blackboard. You'll have some resources and money study groups so that you know how to do the assignment, and hopefully that'll make it really easy for you. But it's really just an assignment where you're going to go out and do a little research, buy a house, buy a car, put some debt on a credit card, put that in your financial plan, and then I'm going to show you strategies for paying off debt. And then you're going to understand much more clearly how much debt costs and how you can use good debt payment strategies to eliminate debt and build wealth, which is really the bottom line for this assignment, is to avoid the trap of consumerism and be smart about how you manage debt. And so that's what I'm going to show you this week as you go out and buy a house, buy a car, buy some things on your credit card, pretend, and then we'll build that into your financial plan, and I'll show you some strategies so that you can see how powerful it is to understand the cost of credit and how much you can build wealth by eliminating credit or using credit in a smart way. So it's time, it's now 11. It's time for us to wrap it up, so I'm going to jump over to Zoom and see if you guys have any questions. I don't see any questions right now, so I'm going to count to 20. Sydney has a question. Will the deadline for extra credit this week still be Friday at 3? I think so. Do you have a suggestion? Since it's a double assignment, I hate to change it because every time I change it, it creates all kinds of confusion. So I'm going to say yes, extra credit is still Friday, 3 o'clock. So yes, that was a good question. Yeah, that's the answer, Sydney. Thank you for asking. But you're getting... Now, one thing I want to say about extra credit, I started out giving you 20 extra points, and that was my way of giving you incentive. I never intended to give you 20 extra points every assignment. So that's like 40% extra, and you got those, and I gave you that. But starting this week, it's going to be basically 10 points. So this week you'll still get 20 points if you do it early by Friday at 3 o'clock, but it'll be 20 points, which is half of what I've been giving you, and that's the way it's going to be moving forward. So hopefully you still appreciate and understand the benefits of turning it in early. You get the extra points. 10 points is 20% extra instead of 20 points, which is 40%. That was just to get your attention and get you in that mode. So please take advantage of that. The other benefit of turning your assignment in early is to be able to know that if you make a mistake and I give you some input, you have the time to go back and correct it by Tuesday at 10 a.m. when the assignment is due, and yes, you will still get the extra points. Again, 10 extra points moving forward, not 20. This week, since we have a double assignment, I'll give you 20. I know that may be confusing for some of you not. So for those of you who are not confused, thank you for not being confused. Thank you for paying attention, and thank you for sharing in GroupMe so that those who are confused have someone who can help them be less confused. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you soon. I'll definitely do some more tutorials this week to make sure, because we're doubling up on this assignment. I want to make it easy for you. So just start by going out and finding your house. Finding your house, find your car, and your credit card that won't take you any time at all. Just pick a number. The point is, I want you to have these things built into your financial plan, your portal, so that I can then show you how different strategies will pay off and eliminate that debt. So trust me, it'll be an eye-opener for you, but you're just going to build some things into your financial plan so that we can play with that data and I can show you how it works in the real world of financial planning. So have a great weekend. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and shut things down now. Take care, and good luck. Hope everybody's got through last week without too much anxiety. Take care.